Hello everybody and welcome, or if you've watched me before, welcome back. I hope you're gonna enjoy this video. In this video, I'll be talking about the books that I disliked that are pretty popular around the BookTok, BookTube community and just overall popular. So some of these books are like popular, some of them have been made into a show. And I'm gonna tell you how much I dislike them. It's gonna be exciting, but I'm also kind of scared because I feel like hate is very easy to get, and this is like the perfect way to get it. So I just want to say I do not want to offend anyone. This is not a personal attack. I just want to share my opinions on these popular books that I personally didn't enjoy. With that being said, I think I can start making this video, can start getting into the books that I want to share with you that I didn't like or felt flat for me or felt underwhelming and stuff, but are pretty popular. So let's go. I am going to start off with a romance, and typically I really like romances, but this romance had a lot of politics, and when I started reading this book I was just getting into reading in English, so this was too difficult for me to read. It was a me problem. It was not the book's problem, it was a me problem, and it was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So I saw potential in liking this book. I even skim read some scenes because I was like, oh, this book could have had so much potential for me personally. Like, this could have been a favorite book of mine. But the politics kind of overshadowed all of the romance in it, and that was very disappointing to me because I could have really liked this book, but the politics were too overpowering. I do not understand politics a lot. I do not like politics if there is too much of it, so this was not for me. But I can definitely see why other people would like it. This book, it's also a romance. It's Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book up to the point where some things started happening where I was like, oh my god, why? Why did this author put these things in this book? I do not want to spoil anything, but I was not up for it. I was not cooperating with the situation. I was like, no. And then at that point, I was so angry that I didn't feel connected to the story at all any longer, so I gave it 2 stars. I maybe should tell you a little bit about my rating system. If a book is 1 star, I did not finish it, I DNF'd it. If a book is 2 stars, I finished it with a lot of hard work. And then 3 stars is like, it was okay, but I wouldn't read it again. 4 stars, it was really good. And 5 stars it was perfection. I would read this over again. I would recommend this to everyone that I see. But this book was a 2 star, so I worked hard to get through this book. But it was good until we got to the point where the conflict started happening. And then I was just so done. This is why I put a warning. I said a warning, a disclaimer, before I started telling you what these books are. Because this book is a very popular one that is very liked by many people. But I personally did not like it. It's Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Bardugo. Who knows? I was so nervous to say this, but I honestly did not like this. I found it boring. Like, a lot of people said that the first 100 pages were really boring and you had to get through those to get to the good part. But this book didn't even feel like Fever Dream. It just felt like I was just reading without actually soaking up any of the information. It was an awful experience, and I had to push myself through this book. But I should have just stopped reading because I really disliked this book a lot. Now that I've said that, I also didn't like Siege and Storm, also by Leigh Bardugo. Shadow Moon was actually really enjoyable. It was a 4-star read for me, and I just told you my rating system, and it was really good. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I really liked my time reading it. This was a different story. I felt like the story was going nowhere. This was just a filler book. And I understand filler books are like important to the 3rd book. But here we go. Rune and Rising was an even lower rating for me because I did give both these books 3 stars, but further thinking into it, could have given Siege and Storm 2 stars, Rune and Rising 1.5 star, because these books, I did not like them. And I did read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and I did like that one. But I just simply did not enjoy these books. I think I should, like, cross off Leigh Bardugo of my fantasy list and just reader adult books because those work better for me because I did really like Ninth House. That is disappointing because I really did expect to really like the rest of the series, but I just didn't. Ooh, this book was bad. It was good up to the point where the plot twist started happening, and then it was just horrible. It was okay then, but then the plot was happening and it was just ridiculous. So it survived the night by Riley Sager, and I really like this book up to the point where the plot twist started happening. But then plot twist after plot twist after plot twist after plot twist after plot twist started happening, and I was so done with it. I was like, okay, why am I still reading this book? Should I just put it down and never pick it up again? This is definitely not Riley Sager's best book, and I haven't even read all Riley Sager's books. But this was not a good one, let me tell you. Like, I would never recommend this to anyone, except if you're up to the insane plot twists that don't even make sense. Then I would pick this up, but it was just too ridiculous for my liking. Okay. Another romance. Like, I know I said that romances just hit for me a lot of times, but these romances did not hit for me a lot of times. So it's American Sister Lifetime by Monica Murphy. Ooh, like, when the story was boring, nothing really happened. Crew was a bitch. Ren was okay. Like, I can say it, she's a virgin, and Crew was just constantly remarking on the fact that Ren was a virgin. Like, I understand Ren can, like, share that she's a virgin and stuff, but Crew, like, kind of made it a game to take her virginity, and I was just so not up for it. And then Crew did get a little better towards the end of the book, but not enough to redeem himself completely. So I still hated him, even after I finished the book. And Crew is not the perfect book boyfriend. There were a lot of flaws on him. And I understand human has flaws, but constantly remarking on a girl's virginity, like, you don't even communicate with her, and you're constantly remarking on her virginity to other people, like, that's not okay. That's not something that I accept. A Deadly Education by Noemi Novik. Was that it? I'm not sure. You will see here. Whew. This was just a lot of information dumping. I read this before it actually got popular. I saw it at the library and I thought this was like, it looked interesting and the concept really attracted me. But there was a lot of information dumping, like, constantly. Like, the information dumping would go on for 10 pages and then we would actually get back to the actual plot of the book instead of the information dumping. It was too much. And I completely, like, I write myself sometimes, and I understand how hard it is to actually not information dump, like, to slowly work your way up to the information that the readers will need. But I feel like this author just did a really not good job at expressing those information stuff and putting it out there. Like, she put the information in one clump of information and just put it in the book for 10 pages long of information dumping. And that was not on the beginning only. Like, people will say, oh, well, but it gets better. No, to me, it didn't get better. Like, I read up to page 250 or even 300, and then I was like, okay, let me see if the information dumping stops eventually towards the end of the book, because then I will finish it. But I was like flipping through the pages and it still happened. So, not for me. I just wanted to add this one in here, but that isn't because I really, really dislike it per se, but I do not like it either. It's Percy Jackson. A lot of people will hate me for this. I know they will, but I can like a middle grade book because I saw that when I read The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. Like, I like that series. But this one just fell flat for me. Like, I knew there was a lot of adventure going on. I really liked the characters, and I could not see any flaws except for I just personally didn't like it. I was just bored throughout the whole experience with reading this book, and that had nothing to do with the book at all, I think. Like, this just had to do with me. Like, I didn't like the writing style or something like that. I just didn't like where the story was going. And I did try to read the other books in the series, but I went up to book 3, and I went up to page 100 in book 3, and then I was just done. I was like, this is not going to get any better for me personally, so I'm just going to stop reading this series. This is a Sarah J. Maas book. And I've said this before on my channel, I think, but it's Empire Storm, by the way. But when I read Sarah J. Maas's books, it gradually goes to the bottom, like writing style wise, I guess, or story wise. And there's too much world building for me to completely understand. There's too much of it. And that is something that annoys me because I really, really like Sarah J. Maas, how she writes books. But eventually when I get into a series where I'm like, okay, yeah, this can be good, it goes to the bottom, like it goes like this. It's like, whoa, this is a really good book. Oh wait, no, it's not. So very disappointing, but it's the truth. I really like Throne of Glass, really like that one, but this one was just so disappointing to me, and I had to push myself my way through reading this book. Like, I was literally walking through mud reading this book, you know? Alright, so now we have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, if I'm correct. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name correctly, so I'm just doing it this way. Correct me, though, how to pronounce it, because I want to know. So, this book is a fantasy, again. Like, I find myself enjoying fantasies, but I also find myself enjoying it less when there's too much information, too much world building, because it gets too difficult for my little pea brain to understand, to comprehend. So that was the same situation, but I think it was the writing style with this one, actually, because I really did like the story, where the story was going and stuff, but the writing style was just not for me. It felt kind of flat, boring. So that is just my opinion, though. Like, you can think something else and I wouldn't care. If We Are Villains by M.L. Rio. This is one of those situations where, it was too difficult for me to comprehend, to understand, for me to read. So I gave this book 3 stars originally, but I kind of want to lower it down to like a 2.5 star because I didn't like the Shakespeare references. I didn't understand the Shakespeare references. I've never read a classic before. I've never read anything by Shakespeare before. This was my first experience reading anything by Shakespeare, and it was not a good experience for me. So I should lower this rating to 2.5 star. The story itself was good, but if the Shakespeare references were like lowered, were like less there, I would have really enjoyed this book because it was a very cool concept. Really liked the idea, but again, the execution of it was not what I hoped it would be. And I had really, really high expectations for this book, but the Shakespeare references were what made me feel dumb. And I do not like when a book makes me feel dumb, and this happened when I was reading this book. Oh my god, I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this. House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas again. I should have included this when I talked about Empire Storms, but I didn't. So this book is the sequel to House of Earth and Blood, and this would feel like a filler book. And I know a lot of people will agree with me on this, but it felt like a filler book. This book felt like Fever Dream. I do not remember anything about it except for the ending, and I did not like the ending. The ending was shocking. I was super shocked. I was flabbergasted. But that doesn't mean that I liked the ending. And I did not like the ending, in fact. It was still an okay book, I guess. But the ending lowered the rating for me. Because I did not like where it was going. Where the next book is going to go. But I will still pick up the next book. Because I do want to know how it ends. The last book is actually not a really popular book, but I do know that another book by this author that this author has written is very popular. That book was The Girl on the Train, but this is Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. I liked this book fine enough, but the plot twist was not good. Like, it was so easy to guess that I didn't guess it. You know what I mean? This was like a Gone Girl situation. It was so easy to guess the plot twist that I didn't even think about guessing that plot twist because it was so easy, too simple. So, that is my thing about this book. But for the rest, I really did enjoy this book, but it felt kind of flat still. Just saying. Just saying. Like, not a lot happened. I was expecting more thriller aspect of the story, but it felt more like a mystery to me. Well, those were the books that I wanted to talk about. I am sure that I do have some more books that I disliked or just liked a little less than I did other books, but I thought that this would be enough for this video. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you won't dislike me because I dislike these books. And yeah, that is all I have to say. So for now, I'll say goodbye, and I hope that I can see you later in my next or previous videos. So, bye-bye!